AIIMS and the Serum Institute reject Karnataka Chief Minister's allegations, says there is no link between COVID vaccines and sudden heart attacks. Telangana Labour Minister holds management responsible for the massive factory explosion which claimed over 40 lives, however rules out any urgency for arrest, claims top management will not escape. And anger over the Delhi government's policy of impounding overage vehicles, cars towed away, owners punished despite the taxes. CNN News 18 leads My Car, My Pride campaign. Join in and share your stories. Traders' body stages protest in Mumbai after M&S workers slapped a restaurant owner for not speaking in Marathi. This is a royal mess of epic proportions. A stranded F-35 jet of the British airport will finally be dismantled and taken away in a larger aircraft. Top sources say that the premier fighter jet stranded at the Kerala airport for the last 19 days can't be fixed. And top government sources reveal that the India-US trade deal could be announced soon. While India may give concessions on tariffs on electronics, US could give some relief to India on dairy products. China provokes India yet again, delays machinery deliveries, pulls back iPhone engineers and imposes curbs on magnet exports. And shifting focus to our CNN News 18 campaign, citizens in Delhi and the NCR are raising serious concerns over the government's crackdown on overage vehicles. An estimated 6 lakh end-of-life vehicles are still plying Delhi's roads, and another 5 lakh in the NCR face a looming ban on fuel from the 1st of November. Now, under these new rules being rolled out across the region, petrol will not be sold to cars older than 15 years and diesel to those older than 10. If found refueling, these vehicles will be impounded on the spot. The policy, enforced by the Air Quality Monitoring Committee and upheld by the Supreme Court, aims to fight pollution, but growing public anger points to a critical question. Is a blanket ban the right solution, or should the system instead assess vehicle fitness on a case-by-case basis, especially when some older vehicles are still roadworthy? Now, the move has sparked massive debate. This entire push by the Delhi government, as well as the movement of this entire policy into the wider NCR region, has sparked several concerns when it comes to the situation of the common man on the ground. Number one, economic hardship. No affordable alternatives or scrappage aid when it comes to this entire policy that is being pushed out. Road tax for 15 years is used for 10 years for both diesel cars. Lawyers cite misinterpretation of the NGT and the Supreme Court orders when it comes to the entire legal hurdle in rolling out this policy. So it's been seen as a very high-handed policy when it comes to curbing pollution in the national capital. So the legal hurdle is that the lawyers cite misinterpretation of the NGT, the National Green Tribunal, and the Supreme Court orders. So these are the conundrums that are coming to light in the wake of this rollout by the Delhi government. No basis to prove old vehicles pollute more is the big development also coming in, because it should be a case-by-case basis is the debate also from the other side of this entire policy rollout, saying that the fitness of the vehicle has to be checked. The fact that a vehicle is old does not mean that it pollutes more. Now the experts are citing alternatives to this entire blanket ban that is coming in Delhi and being pushed out to the wider NCR region. Experts cite these kind of alternatives when it comes to curbing polluting vehicles in the national capital, testing actual emissions and certifying accordingly instead of these blanket bans. These heavy-handed moves coming in from the Delhi government is the pitch coming in from several members of the public as the entire policy is rolled out and cars are being impounded on the spot. Number two, installing filters or newer exhaust systems to meet emission norms is another pitch coming in from the experts. Number three, better scrappage incentives like higher compensation as well as tax rebates is another pitch coming in from this entire situation. Prevent spillover into neighboring states and easy implementation. Another pitch coming in from the experts when it comes to the alternatives to this blanket ban that we are seeing in the national capital. We're getting some more breaking news coming in. Now, what we're seeing, a Delhi minister has made an announcement in a press conference that is underway. The Delhi Chief Minister has assured the people of Delhi that we will not allow old vehicles to get impounded and will take care of Delhi's pollution. Environment Minister for Delhi, Majinder Singh Sirsa, has said that Delhiites are facing problems due to end-of-life vehicles. In response, the Delhi government will hold a meeting with the Commission for Air Quality Management when it comes to this entire blanket ban. So some relief could be possible for the common man on the ground when it comes to this blanket ban. So it's an initiative by the Delhi government to curb pollution in the national capital. It's being spread out into the wider NCR region, but the Delhi government also getting this feedback from the ground that several people are facing a lot of problems when it comes to the direct impounding of their vehicles, of their old vehicles which have passed their due age. And this has prompted the Delhi government to take some corrective measures. And now what we're learning from the Environment Minister of Delhi, Majinder Singh Sirsa, is that the Delhi government will hold a meeting with the Commission for Air Quality Management. Let's listen into what he had to say.
Sensors not working, speakers manipulation. ये स्पीकर्स भी मैनिपुलेटेड हैं, ये भी कोई चल नहीं रहे, कोई बोल, ये सब चैलेंजेस हैं। इसके साथ साथ ये इंटीग्रेटेड भी नहीं है, एनसीआर के डेटा के साथ अभी तक इंटीग्रेटेड भी नहीं हो पाए। इसके साथ साथ एंड ऑफ लाइफ व्हीकल्स जो है, इसमें एक और चैलेंज आ रहा है हमें, वो है कि एचएसपी जो हाई सिक्योरिटी रजिस्ट्रेशन प्लेट्स हैं, इनमें से भी जो जिन पे नहीं है उनको ये आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर रहा। पेट्रोल पंपों पे झगड़ा हो रहा है कि भाई ये भी 10 साल से पुरानी गाड़ी है, तुम इसको क्यों नहीं छेड़ रहे। तो ये एक नई बीमारी वहां पर खड़ी हो गई, क्योंकि जो एचएसआरपी प्लेट्स नहीं है उनको ये आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पा रहा। इसके साथ ही इसमें एरर्स भी आ रहे हैं और इसकी इंप्लीमेंटेशन में दिक्कतें और चैलेंजेस भी हैं। हमने यह भी बताया कि किस तरह से गुड़गांव, फरीदाबाद और गाजियाबाद और बाकी एनसीआर के अंदर भी ऐसा कोई कानून अभी तक लागू नहीं हुआ। अगर कोई दिल्ली में नहीं फ्यूल मिलेगा तो उसको जाके गुड़गांव में, फरीदाबाद से ले लेगा। तो इसका
And I'm joined by my colleague Anshul Singh on the broadcast to get more details, as this entire rollout is facing a lot of pushback from the common man, as well as several legal hurdles as well, as the experts also are pitching alternatives to this blanket ban to end-of-life vehicles. Anshul, when it comes to this entire policy, clearly a lot of pushback being faced by the Delhi government when it comes to this policy of directly impounding vehicles if found to be, old vehicles, end-of-life vehicles. Any relief in sight for the common man? Clearly, the Delhi government has said that some corrective measures have to be imposed on the ground.
Well, no relief immediately, but definitely a ray of hope for the people of Delhi who are using these vehicles that are older than 10 to 15 years. Remember, this policy was already in place for the last more than 2.5 years itself, and more than 80,000 vehicles out here in the national capital have already been seized either by the traffic police or by the Delhi Transport Department. Now, this new policy that was supposed to be had been put in place from July 1st, definitely it was getting a lot of backlash from the common people of the national capital, because the logic of going ahead and impounding each and every vehicle that has reached its end of life was something that was not going on very well with the people of Delhi. And there were several issues in fact that were being raised by the people themselves, because there have been cases that we have reported on these as well, where the condition of these vehicles which are 15 years old or older than 15 years, the condition of these vehicles are still better and they can still ply on road under the requisite limits. But even after that, they are being impounded, whereas there are other vehicles who might not reach the end of life margin, but even after that they are being allowed to run even after they are polluting the environment much more. So the logic was something that was evading the people. And finally, the Delhi government and the Delhi Environment Minister Majinder Singh Sirsa has just announced this, that they have now officially written to the CAQM, that is Center for Air Quality Management, in which they have very clearly stated that they are in no position at this point in time to implement this policy wholeheartedly, because the infrastructure that is required at this point, that infrastructure has still not been applied. Remember, this entire policy was supposed to be implemented from the 1st of April itself. It was delayed by 2 months because of the lack of infrastructure. And now today as well, the Delhi Environment Minister has to say that the infrastructure is not in place and hence we cannot implement this. And now the ball is in the court of the CAQM and the Delhi Transport Department as to what is the decision that they will take, if at all the vehicles that have already been impounded by the Delhi government, will that vehicles be returned? How will that vehicles be returned? This is something that the Delhi government has to answer. This was a very passing remark that was in fact passed by the Delhi Environment Minister, in which they have said that now the ball is in their court, and we have informed them that we are in no position to implement this policy. It remains to be seen how will the CAQM and the Delhi Transport Department actually respond to this, and if at all they will in fact go ahead and put at least a temporary stay at this point in time, and also figure out a way so that the vehicles of people, especially the two-wheelers that have been impounded by the Delhi government and the Delhi Transport Department, that could actually be returned back to the people. Will that happen? That is something that remains to be seen.
But that will be an arduous process, Anshul. But let's show our viewers the letter that Environment Minister of Delhi, Majinder Singh Sirsa, has written to the Commission of Air Quality Management. He has said in this letter, the government of Delhi is fully aligned with the Commission's objective to phase out older polluting vehicles and has implemented a comprehensive air pollution mitigation plan 2025 to this end. But this is the other paragraph. However, as far as the implementation of the direction number 89 regarding denying of fuel to all end-of-life vehicles as identified by the ANPR is concerned, it is felt that because of several critical operational and infrastructural challenges mentioned below, it will not be feasible to implement this order at this juncture. So there are some technological problems when it comes to the implementation of this entire policy, and this is what the government has said. The technological gaps in the ANPR system is the reason why they are facing a lot of problems. As per Majinder Singh Sirsa, while the automated number plate recognition cameras have been installed at most of the fuel stations, the system lacks, and this is what the Delhi government is saying, requisite robustness required from such a crucial system. And is the pitch coming in from the Delhi government? So they're saying that while the system has been placed in several petrol stations and fuel stations across the NCR region, across the national capital, it doesn't have the requisite robustness required from such a crucial system. It seems that when it comes to the entire ANPR system, Majinder Singh Sirsa says there are crucial issues related to the technological glitches, camera placement sensors not working, and speakers not functioning. Also saying the system is not yet fully integrated with the databases of the NCR states. So these are the big technological gaps that the Delhi government is facing with the automated number plate recognition system. This is the letter that Majinder Singh Sirsa has written to the Commission of Air Quality Management, saying that the system that they're using to impound and seize old vehicles, the system is called the automated number plate recognition system. It has crucial working issues, including technological glitches, camera placement issues, and the sensors in many of the areas are not working. Also saying that the system is not yet fully integrated with the databases of the neighboring NCR state. I'm joined by Sweety Saini, one of the founding members of the Citizen Action Group of India, who is leading this campaign against this blanket fuel ban policy coming in from the Delhi government. Thank you, Ms. Saini, for joining us on the broadcast. This letter that I've just read out from the Delhi Environment Minister to the Commission of Air Quality Management, it clearly highlights that while the intention is there to curb pollution, the Delhi government is unprepared and the system is unprepared to carry out a feasible drive to remove these polluting vehicles from the national capital, and clearly that's why we're seeing so many problems. Your first reaction to that? We'll try to connect with Sweety Saini over there, but Ms. Saini, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, Ms. Saini, can you hear me? मिस साइनी, आपको आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
हाँ जी सर, मेरे को आवाज आ रही है
जी। अभी मैंने ये खत पढ़ा, दिल्ली एनवायरनमेंट मिनिस्टर मजिंदर सिंह सिरसा ने कमीशन ऑफ एयर क्वालिटी मैनेजमेंट को भेजा है। उन्होंने कहा है उनका जो ANPR सिस्टम है जिससे ओल्ड व्हीकल्स आइडेंटिफाई होते हैं, उसमें काफ़ी प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहे हैं, जिसकी वजह से इतना पुशबैक आ रहा है दिल्ली की जनता से, दिल्ली की सरकार के खिलाफ ये ब्लैंकेट बैन पॉलिसी के ऊपर। आपका इस पे पहला रिएक्शन?
सर, हम लोग एक्चुअली 3 साल से जो दिल्ली एनसीआर में ये कैंपेनिंग चला रहे थे, मेरा वाहन मेरी संपत्ति, तो उसके तहत हम लोग जो है CAQM से भी सवाल करने के लिए गए थे और CPCB पर भी गए थे, MC ट्रांसपोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट, सबके पास हम जब ये सवाल करने गए थे तो एक्चुअल में जो ये आज बोल रहे हैं ये हम 3 साल से बता रहे हैं। इतने बड़े लेवल पर आप कैसे कर लेंगे, पहली बात है। दूसरी बात ये है कि जो CAQ और CPCB है, इनकी खुद की क्या प्रामाणिकता है, इनका खुद का क्या आधार है, किस बेस पर ये लोग डिसीजन लेते हैं। मेरा सबसे बड़ा सवाल जो है हमारी टीम को यही है कि इनकी CAQ और CPCB की खुद की क्या प्रामाणिकता है, किस आधार पर ये डिसाइड करते हैं। 10 साल और 15 साल बाद जो है गाड़ियां कबाड़ हो जाती हैं, प्रदूषण करने लगती है बिना टेस्टिंग के। अभी जैसे आपने जो न्यूज बताई है बहुत खुशी की बात है कि इतना बड़ा नहीं है, क्योंकि पॉलिसी जिसमें पूरा पॉलिसी में ही घोटाला है और ये बहुत बड़े लेवल पर स्कैम है। और लेकिन जो कल एक आदमी की जो पेट्रोल पंप से गाड़ी जब्त की गई है, क्या ये मनजिंदर सिंह सिरसा जी का जो आपने न्यूज बताई है, क्या इसके चलते उसकी वो गाड़ी उस आदमी की वापस कर दी जाएगी?
ये सबसे बड़ा सवाल है, क्योंकि 80,000 व्हीकल सीज हो चुके हैं दिल्ली NCR रीजन में। और साइनी जी, ये भी अब मनजिंदर सिंह सिरसा ने अपने खत में कहा है कमीशन ऑफ एयर क्वालिटी मैनेजमेंट को कि जो सिस्टम उन्होंने यूज़ किया है इन ओल्ड व्हीकल्स को आइडेंटिफाई करने के लिए वो ही डिफेक्टिव है। तो ये पूरा मुद्दा ही कोलैप्स कर गया है। ये दिल्ली सरकार का ये बयान आया है कि जिस सिस्टम से उन्होंने आइडेंटिफाई किए इन गाड़ी को वो ही डिफेक्टिव है। और फिर अब ये सवाल उठता है कि ये 80,000 गाड़ियां, इन पे क्या एक करके चेकिंग होगी कि क्या ये फिट हैं, क्या वो उनके ओनर्स को वापस मिलेगी? अब तो ये और लंबा प्रोसेस हो गया।
सर एक्चुअली में अभी आप देखिए, तब भी विक्टिम जो है, जो इनका सिस्टम है ना, उसमें विक्टिम फिर भी गाड़ी का ओनर ही रहेगा। जिस आदमी की कल पेट्रोल पंप से गाड़ी उठाई गई है, उसको गाड़ी वापस करने का जो इनका प्रोसेस है, आपने वो बेचारा पेट्रोल भरवाने के लिए गया था गाड़ी, आपने वहां से उठा ली। अब आपकी जिम्मेदारी ये बनती है कि आप उस व्यक्ति की गाड़ी, उसके वाहन को वहीं पर उसको दे जहां से आपने उठाया। लेकिन उसको पीड़ित किया जाएगा, अभी भी उसको ये कहा जाएगा कि आप स्क्रैप यार्ड पे जहां पर गाड़ी भेजी गई है वो वहां जाएगा अपनी गाड़ी लेने के लिए, जो कि दिल्ली NCR से बाहर है। स्क्रैप यार्ड जितने भी हैं वो दिल्ली NCR बाहर है, तो फिर भी पीड़ित वही व्यक्ति होगा। आपने उसको व्यक्तियों को पीड़ित तो कर ही दिया ना, इसकी भरपाई कौन करेगा? क्या ये जो जितना भी स्कैम जिन लोगों की वजह से, जितने अधिकारियों डिपार्टमेंट की वजह से ये व्यक्ति जो पीड़ित हुए हैं, जो वाहन पीड़ित है, क्या उनको सजा मिलेगी? हमारा देश है, एक संवैधानिक देश है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पर चलता है, संविधान पर चलता है। तो संविधान के चलते क्या ये सारे जो पिछले 4-5 साल से जो ये पॉलिसी चल रही है, जो इम्प्लीमेंट ग्राउंड पे किया जा रहा था, क्या वो संविधान के तहत हो रहा था?
जी।
घरों के दिन दहाड़े घरों से गाड़ियां उठा के महिलाओं को, बुजुर्गों को डरा धमका के घरों के अंदर से गाड़ियां उठाई गई, क्या वो संविधान के चलते हो रहा था?
जी सैनी जी, हमसे जुड़ने के लिए शुक्रिया, आपने अपने व्यूज़ आगे रखे। बट दिस इज़ अ ह्यूज डेवलपमेंट दैट्स कमिंग इन वेयर द दिल्ली एनवायरनमेंट मिनिस्टर हैज़ नाउ सेड इन हिज लेटर to the Commission for Air Quality Management, he has said that the entire ANPR system itself is showing a lot of defects, but through that system 80,000 vehicles have been seized, and that is the huge development coming in this entire policy, which is facing a lot of pushback on the ground. I'm joined by Anvit Srivastav and Anshul Singh as well on the broadcast. Anvit, you've been reporting from all the petrol pumps which have this system, which were denying older vehicles the entire their fuel resupply. But now, as per Manjinder Singh Sirsa, the entire system itself has a lot of defects. So that's why the Delhi Environment Minister has written to the Commission for Air Quality Management saying that they can't implement it. But 80,000 vehicles have already been seized. Has this policy now hit a massive roadblock?
Yeah, certainly it seems to be so, and there are 62 lakh vehicles that have already crossed that end of life limit as per the data from the government. And on day one, we reported from petrol pumps how the staff of police as well as traffic police had been deployed on all the police stations in national capital to make sure that any vehicle that comes into the petrol pump, any diesel vehicle that is older than 10 years or petrol vehicle that has crossed the limit of 15 years, that be impounded and no fuel be allowed to that vehicle. Following that, strict actions were being taken, drives have been conducted. But today, now that Manjinder Singh Sirsa, the Environment Minister, he has written to CAQM, the Commission for Quality of Air Quality Management, saying that there are some infrastructural blockage because of which the system needs to be put on hold, and also the refusing fuel to these vehicles must be put on hold. Now he has listed some reasons, and if I could read out some of the reasons are: one is that unable to identify this infrastructure that is in place, the cameras that are in place that had been installed all the petrol stations, they are unable to identify vehicles accurately, and some of the vehicles are not being identified because that camera catches the number plate and then matches the data of that vehicle with the database of the RTOs, and that is how the camera identifies the vehicle that has already crossed that end of life limit. So that those cameras, the ANPR cameras, are not completely well functioning. He has also gone on to say that system is not integrated with neighboring states. Now they are most of these vehicles are also coming in from neighboring states. They are flying in Delhi daily and then going back to neighboring state. Also the impounding that is being done, the infrastructure to maintain these vehicles, to keep them or to scrap them, that also requires massive infrastructure, Ayushman. So that is another thing that Sirsa has highlighted in the letter that has been written to CAQM. Other than that, he has also gone on to mention technological inconsistencies in this process. It looks like that these things were not deliberated upon before implementation of this policy in the way the letter has been written to CAQM, and also he has gone on to say that there will be and there is public outcry and discontent following the drives that are being taken, and the vehicles, like you said, 80,000 vehicles have already been impounded. So the owner of the vehicles and the outcry from public, that has been huge. So keeping an eye on that and keeping in mind the public outcry and discontent, that is also one reason and one ground that has become for to put this policy on hold, and Sirsa has requested CAQM. He is saying that let's put this policy for now on hold, and the refusal of petrol and diesel to these end-of-life vehicles, that be put on hold for now at least.
Absolutely, and going through this letter that Manjinder Singh Sirsa has written to the CAQM, he has said that there are technological glitches, camera placement issues, sensors are not working, speakers are not functioning in the ANPR system, also saying that the system, as Anvit was pointing out, not fully integrated with the databases of neighbouring NCR states. Given the fact that so many cars from other parts of the NCR region travel through the national capital, this is also a glaring issue, Anshul, that's also come to light. And as you are pointing out, 80,000 vehicles have been seized through this defective system. We also see systems where cops are carrying their phones and scanning number plates. That entire system will also come into question. And what kind of now redressal mechanism do these people have as 80,000 vehicles have been seized when it comes to the defective nature of the system? If they have to get some relief from the system, what is the process now for them?
It is definitely a catch-22 movement for the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Delhi government out here, because remember, this was the order that had come in from the NJT and then eventually from the Supreme Court as well, that the end-of-life vehicles should not operate out here in the national capital. Now, according to the plan that was already set up by the Delhi government, this entire policy was supposed to be implemented from April 1st. This policy could not have been implemented at that point because the Delhi government said that we do not have the requisite infrastructure. And finally, when the policy is implemented on July 1st, Delhi government still says that we do not have the requisite infrastructure. So is the Delhi government not abiding by the orders that have been given from the side of the Supreme Court and the NGT? This is something that the Delhi government will have to answer. The CAQM has made this very, very clear that since the orders have already come in from the courts, it should be implemented. Now, over the last 2 years, several vehicles have already been seized. They have been sent to scrap. What will happen to those vehicles? Several people have even got that basic amount of that scrap amount of 60 to 70,000 rupees for their very expensive vehicles that have already been transferred to their accounts. So if at all there is a stay or stoppage that is put on this entire policy, will these people whose vehicles have been taken in a forceful manner by the Delhi government and the agencies over here, will they be given any sort of a money or compensation in any way or any form? This is something that the people are questioning about at this point in time. So definitely there are a lot of questions that
Anshul, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Manjinder Singh Sirsa is speaking. Let's cut to that.
उनका अगर जोर लगाना पड़ेगा तो वो भी लगाएंगे. हम दिल्ली के वातावरण को भी साफ करेंगे और दिल्ली की गाड़ियों को भी नहीं जब्त होने देंगे. ये हमारी दिल्ली की मुख्यमंत्री रेखा गुप्ता जी का दिल्ली के लोगों के साथ संकल्प है, उनके साथ ये वादा है और दिल्ली के लोगों ने हमें मैंडेट दिया है. हमने दिल्ली को भी हवा को भी साफ करना है, दिल्ली में एक्वे लेवल भी नीचे लेके आना है. दिल्ली के बच्चे भी साफ हवा ले सकें, यह भी चिंता करनी है, और उनके साथ उनके इमोशंस के साथ जुड़ी हुई, उनके सेंटिमेंट्स के साथ जुड़ी हुई चीजें भी उनसे ना छीनी जाएं, इसकी भी चिंता दिल्ली की सरकार करेगी। धन्यवाद।
तो ये माना जाए कि आप
Now, the question is not on the Delhi government's intent when it comes to cleaning up the national capital's air. It's about how this entire policy is being implemented and a lack of redressal mechanisms for the common man on the ground. Given the fact that 80,000 vehicles have been seized and Mojinder Singh Sirsa has admitted that the entire system that is being used for the seizure, the NPR system, is itself defective. So what kind of reproach does the common man have in Delhi to this policy that is facing a lot of backlash? Let's get some views from our callers. Shanti Swaroop is joining us from Vijayawada. Ms. Swaroop, over to you.
It is our first duty to environment security first. Environment is the essence of the entire country. It is actually very important. We are all supporting it. Thank you very much.
Right, so we all have to suffer for cleaner air is the pitch coming in from Shanti Swaroop. Thank you for sharing your perspective. This is the call we got from Vijayawada, all the way from Vijayawada on the situation in the national capital, as there is this entire roadblock that this entire policy from the Delhi government is facing, where now Mojinder Singh Sirsa has said that the infrastructure is not in place for the blanket ban, and this has caused a lot of outrage on the ground. And Anshul continues to be with us on the broadcast. So Anshul, clearly one point that was raised by Ms. Saini, who's been campaigning against this forceful seizure of vehicles, is the fact that the scrap yards, to get any kind of relief, people have to now travel outside the NCR region to kind of deal with that entire system. Will their cars be returned to them? Will they have some level of redressal? No one knows. There are still so many grey areas surrounding this entire policy, and that is what's making the common man so angry on the ground.
Well, definitely the redressal mechanism is still not in place. It is still not clear if at all there will be a stay that will be put up by the CAQM and eventually by the NGT and the Supreme Court as well, because all these bodies have put their version forward as to how important is it for the roads of Delhi to actually not see these vehicles who have almost reached their end of life. But yes, if at all there is a ban that is put in, then we can expect a redressal mechanism to come into force. But that is a very, very long haul at this point in time. The first focus of the CAQM will also be, and the Delhi government will also be, to actually improve the infrastructure, because what the Environment Minister has just said, that they do not have the requisite infrastructure. The question is, why do not the government has the requisite infrastructure even after these orders had come in last year itself? There has already been a massive delay, or at least a 2-month delay of implementation of this entire policy, and even after that, the cameras that are put in petrol pumps to identify the end-of-life vehicles, there is just one camera in one petrol pump, and this is becoming a massive issue, because we have seen how petrol pumps operate. There are at least 4 to 5 rows of petrol machines that actually fuel the vehicles, but the camera and the placement that has been done, it has been done just on one machine, and this is becoming a big issue for the implementation. Apart from this, the RTO data that is required from the neighboring districts, that has also not been given. Why is there this delay? This is something that the Delhi government will have to answer to the CAQM as well. The Delhi government cannot be left off the hook just by this press conference.
Anshul, please stay with us, because we're getting some more reactions coming in. Rohit Chaturvedi, who's a scrap dealer, is also joining us on the broadcast. Chaturvedi साहब, ये Mojinder Singh Sirsa ने तो बोल दिया है कि जो हमारा ANPR सिस्टम है, जिससे पुराने व्हीकल्स डिटेक्ट हो रहे थे, वो खुद ही डिफेक्टिव है, और उन्होंने होल्ड पे डाल दिया है पूरे सिस्टम को. दिल्ली की जनता बड़ी तंग है कि उनको अगर कोई रिड्रेसल चाहिए हो, अपनी गाड़ियां वापस लेनी हो, तो उनको स्क्रैप डीलर्स के साथ डील करना बहुत डिफिकल्ट उन्हें लगता है. उन्हें दिल्ली के बाहर जाना पड़ता है, बहुत दूर जाना पड़ता है, और उसके बाद भी उन्हें कोई रिलीफ नहीं मिलता है. आपका रिएक्शन इस पे?
देखिए सर, जो स्क्रैप पॉलिसी गवर्नमेंट ने यहाँ पे इम्प्लीमेंट की है, सबसे पहले ये 2021 में नितिन गडकरी द्वारा इसको इम्प्लीमेंट किया गया, माननीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी के द्वारा इम्प्लीमेंट इसका जब इसको किया गया, तो इसको पॉल्यूशन फ्री करने के लिए इसको इम्प्लीमेंट किया गया. देन दिल्ली में अगर देखेंगे तो समथिंग 30 लाख कार ऐसी हैं जो डिरजिस्टर्ड हो चुकी हैं, तो उनको स्क्रैप करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट कई टाइम से वार्निंग भी दे रही थी जो दिल्ली के कस्टमर्स हैं, कई लोगों को, बट लोग फिर भी इसको यूज कर रहे थे. अब दिल्ली ने फाइनली फ्यूल बैन कर दिया है दिल्ली के अंदर गवर्नमेंट ने. तो कहीं ना कहीं देखो कस्टमर, हमारे पास भी कई कस्टमर्स आ रहे हैं स्क्रैप कराने के लिए, खुद से सामने से कस्टमर चल के आ रहे हैं कि आप हमारी कार स्क्रैप कर दो, उसका स्क्रैप सर्टिफिकेट हमें प्रोवाइड करा दो, बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट ने उससे कुछ मोटिवेशन अमाउंट भी दे रखा है कि स्क्रैप कराते हैं तो मुझसे वो सर्टिफिकेट लेते हैं, देन वो अगर कोई न्यू कार परचेज करते हैं अदर स्टेट्स में तो उनको डिस्काउंट, रोड टैक्स रिबेट वगैरह भी मिलता है।
पर चतुर्वेदी साहब, अभी मजिंदर सिंह सिरसा का खत उन्होंने लिखा है क्वालिटी ऑफ कमीशन ऑफ एयर क्वालिटी मैनेजमेंट को। उन्होंने कहा है जिस ANPR सिस्टम से ये डायरेक्ट सीजर्स हो रहे हैं, 80,000 व्हीकल सीज हो चुके हैं, उनमें ग्लिचेस हैं, उनका वो अपडेटेड डेटाबेस के साथ रजिस्टर्ड नहीं है, उनके सेंसर्स नहीं काम कर रहे हैं, तो ये एक डिफेक्टिव सिस्टम के साथ 80,000 व्हीकल्स कैसे सीज हो सकते हैं?
देखिए सर, सीज जो गवर्नमेंट ने जो व्हीकल सीज किए हैं वो मोस्टली का आपका 10 and 15 ईयर ओल्ड है, पेट्रोल और डीजल। कुछ जो भी गाड़ियां हैं वो 10 और 15 ईयर ओल्ड है, तो गवर्नमेंट ने सीज कर रखे हैं।
जी
हेलो
जी, बोलिए आगे बोलिए।
हाँ, उनको सीज कर रखे हैं कि उन कस्टमर, गवर्नमेंट उनको बोल रही है स्टार्टिंग से। आई थिंक आपको पता होगा अगस्त सितंबर का जब टाइम आता है, अक्टूबर का, दिल्ली में बहुत ज्यादा पॉल्यूशन हो जाता है, यहाँ सांस लेना मुश्किल हो जाता है। कहीं ना कहीं ये जो व्हीकल्स रोड पे चल रहे हैं पॉल्यूशन को ये लोग बढ़ा रहे हैं
जी।
तो ने इनको कई टाइम से वार्न कर रखा है कि आप उस व्हीकल्स को आप स्क्रैप कराइए, आप BSF पे जाके, जो दिल्ली में कई रजिस्टर्ड भी हैं BSF, जो और भी कंपनियां रजिस्टर्ड है, आप स्क्रैप कराइए जाके, फिर भी कस्टमर कहीं ना कहीं उसको यूज कर रहे हैं।
ठीक है, आपका पॉइंट बिल्कुल सही है, आपका पॉइंट बिल्कुल सही है। पुराने व्हीकल्स को सड़क पे चलना ही नहीं चाहिए, और काफ़ी लोग पुरानी व्हीकल्स अभी भी चलाते हैं, पर ये गुस्सा आ रहा है दिल्ली की जनता को कि ये सिस्टम इतना स्ट्रीमलाइन क्यों नहीं है। चतुर्वेदी साहब, हमसे जुड़ने के लिए बड़ा शुक्रिया। जिधर गुप्ता is joining us, and he's an environmentalist. Thank you for joining us on the broadcast. So how do you see these developments coming in? Noble intentions but poor implementation, unplanned implementation on the ground?
देखिए, 2014 से मैं क्लीन एयर एक्टिविस्ट हूँ, एयर पोल्यूशन के बारे में अवेयरनेस क्रिएट कर रहा हूँ, और हमने बार बार यही देखा है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट से ऑर्डर आते हैं, सरकार से ऑर्डर आते हैं, उसका कोई कंप्लायंस नहीं है। जैसे आप ऑर्डर दे रहे हैं कि पराली नहीं जलाई जा सकती, जेल हो जाएगी, फाइन हो जाएंगे, पराली तो जली रही है हर साल। सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऑर्डर था कि फायरवर्क पे बैन है, फायरवर्क तो जल ही रहे हैं हर साल। तो हम बार बार वही मतलब देख रहे हैं। आई थिंक जनता को समझ नहीं है कि ये जनता की सेहत के लिए ही है। अगर आप मतलब जहाँ रहते हैं, जहाँ सोते हैं, आप वहीं एग्जॉस्ट पाइप अपने मुंह में डालने के लिए इच्छुक हैं, तो आपको कोई नहीं बचा सकता। मतलब ये एक जनता के हित में है। सरकार को भी सोचना चाहिए, वो मतलब अपनी गद्दी में बैठ के, चाहे वो सरकार हो, चाहे वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट हो, आप ऑर्डर पास कर रहे हैं, कंप्लायंस के बिना मतलब एक मजाक बन जाता है, एक सीरियसनेस ही इशू की खत्म हो जाती है। और सबसे बड़ा जो फेलियर है गवर्नमेंट का, वो ये क्यों करा जा रहा है वो बताना, मतलब वो बहुत जरूरी है पब्लिक तक मैसेज जाना कि ये क्यों करा जा रहा है और क्या इंसेंटिव है। अगर कोई मिडिल इनकम का है, लोअर इनकम का है, अगर उनकी 10 साल 15 साल या उससे भी पुरानी गाड़ी है, तो क्या उनके लिए इंसेंटिव है कि उस गाड़ी को वो रिप्लेस कर पाए?
जी, पर जिधर गुप्ता, अभी मजिंदर सिंह सिरसा ने बोला है कि ये पूरा पॉलिसी ऑन होल्ड है क्योंकि ANPR सिस्टम जिससे ये गाड़ियां आइडेंटिफाई हो रही थी वो डिफेक्टिव है। आप उससे भी सहमत है कि एक डिफेक्टिव सिस्टम यूज हो रहा है, इन गाड़ियों को फोर्सफुली सीज किए जा रहे हैं? 80,000 व्हीकल सीज हो गए हैं जब से ये ड्राइव शुरू हुआ था। आप उससे सहमत हैं?
देखिए, मेरा विषय वायु प्रदूषण है। ये जो ANPR सिस्टम है, इससे मैं मतलब सहमत नहीं हूँ। मेरे को आइडिया नहीं है ये क्या सिस्टम है, पर जिसने भी ये ऑर्डर पास किया, अगर ये कंप्लायंस हो ही नहीं सकता था तो आपका तो मजाक बन गया ना। एक बार फिर आपने वायु प्रदूषण के विषय को मजाक में छोड़ दिया। हर चीज
नहीं, वायु प्रदूषण नहीं, जयदर साहब एक्सक्यूज मी, वायु प्रदूषण एक सीरियस मैटर है, पर उसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन भी इफेक्टिवली होना चाहिए सरकार से, तो उस पे सवाल उठाए जा रहे हैं।
सरकार को हर चीज, हर प्रोसेस को सोच समझ के करना है कि अगर कोई ऑर्डर पास हो रहा है और ये बहुत सीरियस ऑर्डर है और मेरे ख्याल से बहुत अच्छा ऑर्डर है। मतलब लोगों को ये समझना चाहिए कि एक डीजल गाड़ी का जो प्रदूषण होता है वो 9 पेट्रोल गाड़ियों के बराबर है।
जी बिल्कुल। Jayadar Gupta, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspective. We're also joined by Bert D'Souza, who's an auto expert. So how do you see these developments coming in from the national capital? Now the government mulling to hold the entire policy after writing to the Commission of Air Quality Management that the entire ANPR system has defects in it.
Well, see, the policy is a good policy, especially where Delhi is concerned, NCR is concerned, to curb pollution. But the implementation, the procedures, I'm not entirely confident if that is the right way of going about it. Simply because I think people have to be given the opportunity to evaluate their cars, or give them a process where they can evaluate the cars and see if it complies with existing regulations and norms. And if it passes fit test, then I do not see why that a person should be penalized for using a car that is 10 years old or longer. There have been several instances that have come about right now where consumers have been saying that their cars are maybe 10 years old, but the usage on that is barely anything. Probably 30,000 kilometers, 40,000 kilometers, which isn't the end of life of that product for that matter. And if it can meet current emission regulations, I do not see why that vehicle has got to be impounded or scrapped at all. Especially now, there's another issue rising up about people having paid road tax, which is valid for 15 years. Now, if the road tax is valid for 15 years, why are vehicles being scrapped once they, end of life is being termed as 10 years alone? So that's another issue that's rising up in the current situation. But it's good that the government has held back at this point in time, and maybe it's not just the automated systems, that the automated cameras that are to be rectified as of yet. Maybe it's also because of pressure from the consumers at the end of the day as to why this policy has come in such a haphazard manner. But whatever it is, I think there needs to be saner heads prevailing over this entire issue.
Right, but Mr. D'Souza, in your opinion, do you think the government can't stomach these added processes of, testing vehicles on a case-by-case basis? This 10-year mark, this 15-year mark, this rigid nature of this entire policy is leading to a lot of discontent on the ground. But with the advent of technology, with the improvement of, emission controls, do you think the government just doesn't want to get into, added checks to check the fitness of auto vehicles on the ground?
I'm not sure how technology is going to really play a role in this. Yes, it's fantastic that you've got a system that can effectively detect a vehicle, identify its age, and prevent or at least prohibit the user from refueling his vehicle. But how quick and effective is the system going to be? I mean, are we going to enter into another FASTag wala era where, despite the FASTag being promised as a speedy system to reduce weightage at tolls, is this going to be another issue similar to that where people are going to continue waiting at petrol pumps, for clearance to come from some system so that they can refuel the cars or not? Because people will continue using their cars even though it's 10 years old. Even, they will continue using their cars until and unless someone really, impounds them and forces them to, take the car away or seize the vehicle. So people are going to continue using their cars till the day they're caught.
Right.
So the system may not exactly be a foolproof system at this point in time. So it will take some time for it to be a seamless operation.
Right. Thank you, Mr. D'Souza, for sharing your perspective. So this is the raging debate surrounding this entire policy in the national capital. The environmentalists are saying that this is just growing pains when it comes to curbing air pollution in the national capital. But the common man is saying that they need to have faith in a robust system because they are willing to do their part. But the system has to be robust and foolproof in nature. So that is the big tussle that is emerging as the Delhi government now is mulling, holding this policy of a direct seizure of end-of-life vehicles because the ANPR system used to identify those vehicles has been found to be defective, and that was written by Majinder Singh Sirsa in his letter to the Commission on Air Quality Management. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out, but a lot of discontent on the ground in the national capital. But we're going to take a quick break now. More news and updates on the other side.
This is The Drive.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar refutes Trump's India-Pakistan ceasefire claims. He said, and I quote, "Even today, the central factor in relationship between us is India and United States. When I am looking at ties with US, a lot about it is about trade, tech, mobility, defense, and ceasefire was negotiated between DGMOs." External Affairs Minister also slammed the global community's selective approach to terrorism, highlighting how some countries only take strong positions when they themselves are targeted. So this is what External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has once again highlighted, that there was no role played by President of United States Donald Trump in the cessation of fire between India and Pakistan. It was Pakistan who called at to our DGMO, and then at the level of DGMO, this understanding happened between both the countries. And also importantly, S. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, highlighting this fact that there are certain countries who do not really talk about terrorism. When it comes to them, then they only come out and speak. We have a reaction. Let's listen in.
What we have communicated very clearly is we mean it when we say there is zero tolerance for terrorism. Now, and we also, if you look back at Prime Minister's address to the nation after the cessation of firing on 10th of May, there were some very clear messages which came out of that. So it's really for the terrorist groupings and for their sponsors to absorb and to reflect on those messages. Now, I don't think we are going to spell out, if this happens, we will do that. I mean, no government does that. The record of what happened at that time was very clear, and the ceasefire was something which was negotiated between the DGMOs of the two countries. So I will leave it at that.
There you heard India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar saying in no uncertain terms that there was no role United States played in cessation of fire between India and Pakistan. And also the second important point that he raised about the selective approach of the countries on terrorism. My colleague Siddhant Mishra is with us on the phone line. Siddhant, talk us through about these two major statements made by S. Jaishankar, whether about the role of United States between the India and Pakistan secession, and secondly, the selective approach of the countries on terrorism.
Well, Minister Jaishankar was addressing a press conference in Washington, D.C. and in fact, he did take up all the questions from the journalist. And when he was asked about how, when it comes to taking position on terrorism, then some countries don't take tough positions when it has not impacted them. So, to which Mr. Jaishankar said very clearly that, in fact, he slammed the global community's selective approach to terrorism, highlighting how some countries only take strong positions when they themselves are targeted. In fact, he also went on to say that, as far as India's position on terrorism is concerned, that when terror attacks happen elsewhere outside India, we have largely followed the same position that we have taken when when terror attacks happen in India. So, citing India's example, Jaishankar said that, there may be countries, those who take selective positions when it comes to terror attack, but India's position has always been consistent. Coming to the mediation done by President Trump, etc., when he was asked about it, so he, explained India-US relationship to the media first. He said that even today, the central factor in the relationship between US and India is India and US. When I'm looking at ties with US, a lot is about trade, tech, mobility, defense. He said that we are a big country, we are a populous country, we should have self-confidence even in asking questions. And in fact, last, in a very dignified manner, he said that ceasefire was negotiated between DGMOs, and I will leave it at that. So, again,
And welcome back to the Nation at 5 with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. This is a CNN News 18 exclusive. Union Minister Chirag Paswan speaks to Aman Sharma on a range of issues, including the Bihar Assembly elections, political alliances, and the next Chief Minister of the state if the NDA wins the upcoming elections. Listen in.
Speculation which does the rounds is that you want to enter state politics because Bihar also has this history of having multiple deputy CMs. If the NDA wins, are you looking at a deputy chief minister role?
I mean, to be very honest, I'm not looking at any post. Let me be extremely honest. You know, I come from a family where I've seen it all. So for me, this doesn't lure, you know, me having a post, my party having a post. If that would have been my priority, I think in 2020, I wouldn't have left the alliance. You know, in 2020, if I would have contested with the alliance, you know, I would have managed to win at least, you know, 10 to 12 seats, whatever number of seats that they were giving me that time, which was around 15. I would have managed to win 10 to 12 seats. I would have been the central minister that time itself, 4 years before. And I would be having a couple of ministers here in the state from my party. So that has never been a matter of interest for me. Having said that, what I'm aiming at is that the alliance should perform well. We should achieve our target, and definitely as per the strength of the parties, everybody will be given their respective role in the government. But then if you're asking me that if myself personally aiming for a deputy or anything of that sort, no. If given circumstance, if a situation like this comes, so that would be one of the deserving party men.
So you will not be the deputy chief minister, but choose one of your party men for the post if the choice arises.
Definitely, yes.
One significant difference from the last election, 2020, when you contested alone and you famously said, I am Narendra Modi's Hanuman, and you did cause a lot of loss to Mr. Nitish Kumar in that election. His seats came down in a big way.
Thank you for reminding that repeatedly.
But this time, now you're asking for
right
votes.
before the election, that's the last thing anybody would want to hear anyways. Yes, please.
But this time, the situation is different. You're effectively asking for votes in the name of Nitish Kumar. He's the sitting chief minister. How do you relate to these two things now? You know, obviously, your cadre may be asking you some tough questions, and public also maybe.
No, of course they do ask these questions, but I think if anybody who understands the concept behind it, that why it all happened. So immediately after 2019 election, I think I need to clear the air, you know, what was the reason, you know, why I went so aggressive. So in 2019, immediately after the Lok Sabha election, I don't know why, but somehow I felt that, you know, me and my party is being cornered. That was the time when my father wasn't keeping very well. And then later on, he was admitted for the longest time in the hospital. And that was the time when the whole negotiations were taking place. And since my father was not that active and he was in hospital, and I do understand, you know, because that time, comparatively, I was very naive, I was very new, you know, they thought that after my father, I'll not be able to pull it off the way that, you know, he always used to do. So in a way, I was being cornered in the alliance. I was not being asked, told, not to be kept in the loop. So I think because of that, I started disconnecting with the alliance. You know, I wanted X number of seats. Anyways, that was not the concern. But then I wanted my Bihar First agenda to be the part of the government agenda. But that was also outrightly rejected that time. So when I was not given any space within the alliance, so I had no other option but to voice it out on public domains and through media. And that's what I started doing. Not that I don't have issues and concerns now. Now also, of course, I do have. But now I've been given that space within the alliance, you know, and my issues, they not only get acknowledged, but they also get addressed, you know. So now I don't need to use media, or I don't need to go on a public domain and say that this is wrong and this is not happening the right way.
So you buried the hatchet with Nitish Kumar?
You have to. I mean, not only with him personally, but then I think if you're the part of a system, you have to be wholeheartedly there, or else you'll be spoiling your own group itself.
And I'm joined by my colleague Aman Sharma, who had that conversation with Chirag Paswan. So an interesting answer to your question coming in from Chirag Paswan. Aman, so what sense are you getting? Is this the cadre that Chirag Paswan is talking about? Is the conundrum persisting, or are the dynamics of 2020 water under the bridge?
I think, Ayushman, it's much under the bridge that we can clearly see from Chirag Paswan's interview to us.
I think the two major points which he is saying, number one, that if the NDA wins these elections, irrespective of the number of seats any ally wins, Nitish Kumar will be the Chief Minister. Chirag Paswan saying that Nitish Kumar will take oath as the Chief Minister if the NDA wins. That's a big statement, because even the BJP has not very clearly said the same. Number two point that Chirag Paswan is saying is that he is not interested in the Deputy Chief Minister's position, which is the big speculation in Delhi, because Chirag Paswan said he will contest the assembly election despite being an MP and a union minister. Chirag Paswan is saying even if he wins as an MLA, he will not want to be a Deputy Chief Minister. If the situation so arises that his party gets a good number of seats, he would prefer one of his party members to become the Deputy Chief Minister of Bihar. So I think a very major clarification coming from Chirag Paswan there. Him also very clearly saying that, he is not so much interested in a role in the center. Chirag Paswan saying that he wants a role in the state. He wants to work for the youth of Bihar, for the people of Bihar, and that is why he wants to return to the state and work here. Also telling me that Nitish Kumar in fact asked him that was he even serious about contesting an election in Bihar this time. Chirag Paswan said he told Nitish Kumar that a decision on that will be taken soon, but very clearly the sentiment in his cadre is that he should contest the election, assembly election, and also he should contest from a general seat.
Right, thank you Aman for decoding that for us. So that is the pitch coming in from Chirag Paswan in that exclusive conversation with Aman Sharma. But we also know that how in Bihar politics the dynamics shift minute by minute. We will continue to track all the developments coming in. For now, a quick break. More news and updates on the other side. Right, we're getting some more breaking news that's coming in. This is new developments coming in when it comes to the situation in Canada. And what we are learning is that this is from top intelligence sources, that there is a growing influence of Khalistani extremism within Canada's Sikh diaspora. Muninder Singh Boyal, a prominent Sikh leader and chief spokesperson for the Sikh Federation and the British Columbia Sikh Council, has been caught on record openly endorsing political assassinations and violent resistance. Top intelligence sources have told CNN News 18 that Boyal's recent speech at a religious gathering in Surrey in British Columbia included explicit justification for violence and glorification for high-profile killings. I'm joined by my colleague Akanksha Swaroop on the broadcast. So Akanksha, despite the change in dispensation in Canada, even though the Liberal parties are continuing and Mark Carney has shown a little more intent when it comes to cracking down on criminal elements emerging from Canada and anti-India elements operating inside Canada, it seems that these kind of activities by the Khalistani nexus continue under his watch.
That's also because, Ayushman, they are completely deeply rooted, and there'll have to be a consistent multi-pronged effort to be put in by the Carney government. And Muninder Singh Boyal is the chief spokesperson for the Sikh Federation. He's also the BC Sikh Council head. He's emerged as a key node in promoting anti-India narratives within Canada's Sikh diaspora. So if you look at it, men like Muninder Singh Boyal, they are the chief spokesperson of the BC Sikh Council and Sikh Federation. They are the ones spreading religious violence and acts of terrorism and political assassination. So for a government also to displace such people is not going to be easy. He's based out of Surrey in British Columbia. He's known, Surrey, as we all know, is known for the hotspot of being a Khalistan-linked hotbed for all these activities. And Boyal uses platforms to propagate extremist rhetoric, glorifying political violence. In his latest speech, he's gone on to talk about how it was India that killed, how it was them who killed Indira Gandhi, Beyond Singh and General Bain when they wanted, and that their personal differences cannot hold the violent struggle and that they should use arms. His open endorsement of violent resistance aligns with terrorist groups like Khalistan, Tiger Force and Babar Khalsa International.
Right. Thank you, Akanksha, for decoding that for us. So the ball is in the Canadian government's court to take action against such elements. But that's all we have to pack in on the show. We're going to take a quick break now. Up next, Plain Speak with Poonam Burde.
Brought to you by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar refutes Trump's India-Pakistan ceasefire claims. He said, and I quote, "Even today, the central factor in relationship between us is India and United States. When I am looking at ties with US, a lot about it is about trade, tech, mobility, defense, and ceasefire was negotiated between DGMOs. External Affairs Minister also slammed the global community's selective approach to terrorism, highlighting how some countries only take strong positions when they themselves are targeted. So this is what External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has once again highlighted, that there was no role played by President of United States Donald Trump in the cessation of fire between India and Pakistan. It was Pakistan who called at to our DGMO, and then at the level of DGMO, this understanding happened between both the countries. And also importantly, S. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, highlighting this fact that there are certain countries who do not really talk about terrorism. When it comes to them, then they only come out and speak. We have a reaction. Let's listen in.
What we have communicated very clearly is we mean it when we say there is zero tolerance for terrorism. Now, and we also, if you look back at Prime Minister's address to the nation after the cessation of firing on 10th of May, there were some very clear messages which came out of that. So it's really for the terrorist groupings and for their sponsors to absorb and to reflect on those messages. Now, I don't think we are going to spell out, if this happens, we will do that. I mean, no government does that. The record of what happened at that time was very clear, and the ceasefire was something which was negotiated between the DGMOs of the two countries. So I will leave it at that.
There you heard India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar saying in no uncertain terms that there was no role United States played in cessation of fire between India and Pakistan. And also the second important point that he raised about the selective approach of the countries on terrorism. My colleague Siddhant Mishra is with us on the phone line. Siddhant, talk us through about these two major statements made by S. Jaishankar, whether about the role of United States between the India and Pakistan secession, and secondly, the selective approach of the countries on terrorism.
Well, Minister Jaishankar was addressing a press conference in Washington, D.C. And in fact, he did take up all the questions from the journalists. And when he was asked about how, when it comes to taking position on terrorism, then, some countries don't take tough positions when it has not impacted them. So, to which Mr. Jaishankar said very clearly that, in fact, he slammed the global community's selective approach to terrorism, highlighting how some countries only take strong positions when they themselves are targeted. In fact, he also went on to say that as far as India's position on terrorism is concerned, that when terror attacks happen elsewhere outside India, we have largely followed the same position that we have taken when when terror attacks happen in India. So, citing India's example, Jaishankar said that, there may be countries, those who take selective positions when it comes to terror attack, but India's position has always been consistent. Coming to the mediation done by President Trump, etc., when he was asked about it, so he, explained India-US relationship to the media first. He said that even today, the central factor in relationship between US and India is India and US. When I'm looking at ties with US, a lot is about trade, tech, mobility, defense. He said that they are a big country, they are a populous country. We should have self-confidence even in asking questions. And in fact, last, in a very dignified manner, he said that ceasefire was negotiated between DGMOs, and I will leave it at that. So, again, it's stating India.
Good evening. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Poonam Burde. On 30th of June, a little after 9 a.m., an explosion rocked a chemical factory in Telangana's Sangareddy district. Sagachi Industries is a pharmaceutical company that has been in operation for over 3 decades on that site, but now it's reduced to rubble. 143 workers were inside the factory when that explosion occurred, which led to a massive blaze that took hours to douse. Unfortunately, 40 of those employees died in that tragedy. What's worse is that there are several that are still unaccounted for, and many of the family members of these victims believe that this tragedy could have been avoided. Safety norms were flouted is what they claim. Faulty temperature sensors and failed alarms were noted after the explosion, and now there is an investigating team that will be looking into what exactly went wrong. But these lapses were definitely there. Were these lapses an oversight, or was it something more systemic? And in the aftermath, there's one question that echoes the loudest. Who is responsible for the loss of these 40 lives? It's been 4 days since that accident, since that explosion, and the families of those 40 workers are nowhere close to finding answers to those questions or even get a semblance of closure. Before we open that up here on Plain Speak, let's take a look at the facts of this case. In the aftermath, like I said, there have been several lapses that have come to the fore, leaving one wondering